Hello and welcome to our panel, What's an Indie Game and Why Should You Care? We're going to start by just quickly introducing ourselves. So my name is Beck and I am the creative director and founder of the Indie Brew.
Hello, my name is Jenny, she, her, and I am, I'm one of 4 of Wholesome Games, which is a game curation platform and publisher. I also co-own a studio called Soft Not Week, and I have my own, I would say, book club for video games called Geeks and Grounds.
My name is Rohan Nowell. I'm an indie game developer. I've got a game on show today. It's called Doggy Don't Care. It's at the Oz Indie Showcase area. Please come along and have a play. It's about you're a dog left at home alone getting up to mischief. So come have some fun.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Dakoda. I'm an independent game maker, journo, critic, academic, all the rest of the hats as well. But in my current role, I am a games investment manager at Screen Australia, so I help great games get money to stay alive while they make great games.
And my name's Anthony. I'm a creator on the Indie Brew as well.
Awesome. Okay, so this is probably maybe the hardest question that we're going to have to talk about. But I thought it would be fun to discuss what makes indie games indie in all of our very varied experience. It's kind of like a hot topic at the moment. I feel like some of the lines are getting blurred with some companies, but typically, like, obviously we think independently kind of developed or independently published, but that can vary a lot. So I'd love to know what everyone else's experiences have been with like the different size teams and what we really think defines that indie kind of label that we're seeing now.
Am I first?
Yeah, you can be first.
Oh God.
You made eye contact.
No.
Set the bar, Jenny.
I know. Jeez. I feel like, this is tough. I think indie, while originally probably meant more like independently created in terms of no creative restraints from like maybe outside forces or funders, it means like smaller teams. I think that definition has expanded quite widely in the last few years, maybe the last decade. And so I would say for me, indie is more of a spectrum than anything else, where you have the hobbyists who are putting their games on itch, doing it for fun, just in their part-time, where you can have up to studios with teams of 50 even, getting funding from publishers, from government organizations so they can live and exist and create games. So it is more of a spectrum. Definitely I do differentiate it from AAA where there's like the billions of dollars in budget. That's like a much different scale than even millions. But yeah, for me, indie is a spectrum that still captures a spirit of sort of independent work and sort of an independent way of wanting to do things different from that AAA perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything she's just said. However, from a personal point of view, I think that what stands out to me, what an indie game is that it's often made by a handful of people at most. And essentially, an indie game for me it's something that the developers are putting their heart on the line. It's something that they've got a story or a journey to send you on, and they're putting this piece of art together for you to experience, and they're doing it often in their own devices without funding initially, and it's really important that I think it's just like it's often a very small team. And they're trying to get that message across. And I've lost my train of thought. I had something really good to say, I promise.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah. But it's about creating a journey or a experience for people and putting your heart on the line. And for me, it's about not many 2 fingers on the game. So I like to think that games have fingerprints on them. And an indie game to me doesn't have a lot of fingerprints. So an indie game can do what a AAA company can't, and that is put the personal feel into it. When you're playing an indie game, you're playing someone's baby, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of where I think about it.
Yeah.
Had this conversation a few times this week. It's a good one for it. It's really interesting, and I think that as screen agencies, we often struggle because we need to have a definition. I'm going to choose to cop out and not really commit to one, but I think it's really important that we consider I think that really human element, something that doesn't get sort of thinned out by too many cooks in the kitchen, but also, it's not just about not having money. It's not just about not having a publisher attached. It really is that sort of the spirit of it. I think that like desire to innovate, to create something that hasn't been done before, and to make games that allow you to feel something that maybe you can't access anywhere within games or outside of games as far as media goes. So, it's nebulous, it's unclear, but it's, you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm at this end of the table, which really sucks. I've just realised everyone yesterday who said this end is bad, it was 100% correct. Because I agree with everything you guys have said, and that's kind of my opinion as well. But I just think it's that small team or slightly larger team, we're not talking, massive amounts of people making the game that they want to make with no outside influences, and really pouring their passion and their creativity and every ounce of what they've got into it. For the most part, most of the devs that we speak to talk about that creative journey that they go through, where they've got to learn every single step of the process. So whether it is the coding, or I remember talking to one dev that he wanted to make a specific type of game, so he sat down for 6 months prior to even doing anything and learning how to draw in pixel art. And that's a massive commitment, and that was even before the game had been started. So they're the things I see as indie. It's when the people go way past the barrier and learn everything they need to know, and really put in that time and that passion and that energy to create something that they don't know whether it's going to be good or not.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too, because you do hear about the different journeys, and usually there's an emotional connection to the game that most indies are making, and I think you really see that in even the themes they explore. I think there's at least 2 games or 2 people that I spoke to today, and one game was exploring bipolar and the journey of different kind of stereotypes we hear about bipolar, and the reality of what it is actually like to be someone with bipolar, and another game about PTSD. So it's we're seeing these really human themes that I think some of the bigger companies are a little bit scared to kind of talk about, because it can be politically incorrect, or it can be not well received. But hearing that these guys are not only just making something cool that they want people to play, but making something that really has the chance to see have other people's stories kind of interwoven through them, and have people be able to relate to those different kind of themes is really cool. And it's so innovative as well.
It's what Proximate, one of the Oz Indie Showcase winners, said yesterday, where it was they just wanted to make a game about their own experience, and they weren't initially looking at who was going to play it. But then as the game started getting into conventions and things like that, they realized there's a couple of people that actually like this and relate to it. I'm going to work on it a little bit more. And it just kept on pushing and pushing until they've got the game it is now, and there's a bunch of people that really relate to that personal experience.
Yeah, I think when I... Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that got me into indie game development was like I said, I'm trying to tell a story in the games I make. And before I was making Doggy Don't Care, which is a very silly, colourful, carefree game, I was making a game about grief, which I was processing the loss of my brother. And indie games, I think, can be like that vessel that you can carry things through and tell a story, like I said. So I've lost my train of thought again. Man, it's day 3, please. I've been talking all day, and I'm an introvert, but...
You're excused. It's day 3.
So what I was saying is I parked that indie game, and I started making Doggy Don't Care because I needed the relief from overthinking things. And just because I'm making a silly game now doesn't mean that same message that I was trying to tell in that first game isn't carrying across in its own way. This game is still me dealing with that, processing grief. It's just in a completely different and hidden scenario. You're a silly dog that doesn't care, but it's my way of giving players a chance to, enjoy themselves, and it's just me trying to put myself out there in a fun way rather than the direction I was going previously. And that's,
Silly Dog does care
Yeah.
deep down.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So.
Big
Yeah,
twist.
I was gonna say, really, like, it's echoing the point, but I think the thing that's truly special about indies is the specificity. Like, you can create a game, like for us, with Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats Smash 3-2, we did not see games out there that were super queer. We did not see games that also had like different body types. Our creative director is from Lebanon. We did not see games that were joyful and happy set in that setting. And so we decided we wanted to create something so specific. And initially it was more for us than other people. But in creating that, it's like it allowed other people to enjoy it. So unlike, I think, again, I enjoy AAA games, but I think the difference is AAA games are made for a wider audience. They're made to appeal to the general, more so than indies, where it's like you can just get so honed in on one type of experience, and that becomes then like universal because of how people kind of take it in. So, yeah.
For sure. All right, so I'm actually really interested to ask this. What is everyone's first interaction with an indie game that you can kind of remember?
That's an easy one for me. So the first indie game, like as soon as indie game is said, the first game that comes to mind is Journey. That game was like a mind-blowing experience for me because it was so simple. It was like 2 colors and you're just in a desert and there's no word, like there's literally no words. It's just music and you in this environment. And I was like, how the heck can they make something so simple mean so much to me? Like I'm literally getting teary playing this game. What's going on? And that has like embedded itself in my indie game life, and I always think about that game. And actually, I'll try not to talk about my game too much, but in between the levels of Doggy Don't Care, there's a dream level, and that level will be heavily influenced by Journey because it's meant so much, and I know that that game has meant so much to others. Indie games are just a great experience, and people who make them are just putting their heart on the line. So, yeah.
All right, I can go.
Okay.
Realistically, my first indie game would have been Minecraft when it was an indie game. I think at the time I didn't even think of it as an indie game. It was just I was playing video games. And it wasn't really until I met Beck that I started really looking into indie games. I was one of those people that was heavily addicted to AAA titles, and I'd buy them regardless if they were good or not.
And then I corrupted him.
Yeah. And then...
Saved him.
Yeah.
And now I'm spoilt for choice. I can hop on Steam and scroll for hours and still not know which of the 15 games that I've written down I'm actually going to play. And my backlog is disgusting. But yeah, I think my very first game that I played coming into it was a game called Noxia Somnia.
I was going to say it was a horror game for sure.
Yeah. And it was about, once again, about grief and about high school bullying. And I was not prepared when I went in because the art style was really, really cool. And at the end of the game, I just went, whoa, okay, that was insane. And I walked away completely different. And now I just love indies. They're fantastic.
Have you got one?
I do.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
can go next. So my first indie game was a title called To the Moon. Thank you. That's very validating. It absolutely wrecked me. We can do a support group later. Yeah, it's a narrative game about a man's dying wish to go to the moon and the 2 scientists who are helping facilitate that in his mind. It is absolutely, it's so heartbreaking, but also such like a story about love and what that looks like. And it was the first time I had experienced a game that was that emotional, but also that compact, where I think previously my experiences with games were either like Harvest Moon or Final Fantasy, which is also super emotional, but it's over like a 60-plus hour arc. And so the fact that that game took me only a few hours to play and I was just sobbing by the end, it was hugely impactful on me.
I'm also a sicko for the narrative games, but I'm gonna say my point of difference is playing flash games. I think it's probably the first point where I encountered stuff that was against the status quo, right? And there are definitely flash games that are narrative focused, but a lot of them are just kind of janky little experimental, mechanically interesting things, and I think that embedded itself in my brain. So when I started thinking about how I wanted to make games, even though I was the narrative guy, I was like, how do you then embed it with something really bizarre mechanically to sort of feed and fulfill that? So, I think that that's probably the point where it started. And then, Journey is a thing that transformed me forever as well. So there's lots of really quintessential independent games that came out in that sort of early generation that I think still absolutely hold up today.
Yeah.
And if you haven't sort of played the quote unquote canon of indie games, check them out.
Can I change my answer very quickly? Because you've just opened my mind to my entire childhood. I forgot about flash games, things like Stick RPG and Bubble Trouble and all those games. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You are so welcome.
So for me, I guess I didn't really play indie games until about 2 years ago, believe it or not, which is wild to think about now. But I was very much a AAA kind of girl. I loved Call of Duty, Battlefield, all those kind of games were what I used to play, and whatever else my dad basically bought so I could steal from his Steam library. But I ended up going into streaming and creating, and then from there, indie games were just cheaper. Honestly, they were just more affordable. And when you're trying to create content, that's and you're not making any money off content, that was really important. So that was kind of where I started getting, into it. And then where it really hooked me is actually a really lovely story. It was Steam Next Fest in October, I think, 2023, and I played the demo of a game called Doggy Don't Care. Yeah. And the developer was really sweet and came into the stream, and that was the first moment where I had that, oh my gosh, there is a human that made this game. And that was what sold it. I was like, I want to play something that real people make, and that was such a wholesome interaction, and from there it was just nope, that's it. I'm just done. I'm indie games. That's it. But I'd love to know, Rohan, if you can talk about it.
Cut to my side of the screen, and I'm like, holy crap, a human is playing my game. Because I jumped in. I was new to Twitch. I got in I didn't even know what Twitch was until COVID happened, and I went on Twitch, and I was like, as she said, I used my Steam Next Fest thing, and she was playing the demo, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this Twitch thing's all new to me, but I'll say hello in the chat. And I was like, hey, I made this game. And she was like, oh my God, we have the dev in the chat. And it was a nice, cute moment that we had together. But yeah, essentially I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first person that's publicly expressed that they like my game. And they were like, I can literally hear her saying, and the exact words she said, she was like, I can't believe you made this. You should be so proud of yourself. This is really cool, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this industry and this community is exactly what I need in my life right now. So it was a huge moment for me as well. And I know it was I didn't realize that she was new to the scene at the time though. But yeah, 100%, it was a two-way thing. And then I met her at PAX last year, and I was like, hey, and she was like, hey, and we're like, hey.
We changed each other's lives. Cool.
Yeah, and then eventually started saying words to each other. And,
and now we're here. It's great. That's so cool. I love hearing your telling of that story too. It's just such a cool thing that it was so pivotal for both of us, which is cool. All right.
Were you mortified though? Was it really harrowing?
Well, when she said this game's actually kind of crap, then I was mortified.
It's always really interesting to me. I've only sort of experienced that side of it once, and it was on a thing that didn't have the heart and soul put into it, right? I made this janky little thing with some friends for a streamer friend of ours, and then watched him play it live, and I was like, I'm really uncomfortable because this game sucks, and I know that it sucks because we made it badly. But it's really nice to see that you get that validation straight away that it's a really kind of human experience.
Yeah, because like I said, making an indie game is really vulnerable, and putting it on like the socials and in Steam Next Fest especially, you like really feel like, oh my gosh, people are going to be able to rip my heart out. Yeah, so totally, I don't know if the word's mortified, but I was terrified. And to get the positive feedback, the game has changed a lot since then, but like, yeah, the essence of it is the same. You're still a dog that doesn't care.
And you can still pee on things.
Yeah,
That's really fun.
Yeah. But now it leaves a stain, you know. It's the little things, I tell you. It's the little things that take 3 years to put into it. So the game was finished then, and I'm just like adding all this little stuff to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop adding little things.
Yeah, I think that's like a theme we hear coming to events like this too, especially from developers showing their game. Like, developers love coming to this because it's so validating to actually watch people play something you've made, or have someone kind of say, hey, this looks really cool, and like they're always so surprised, and I'm like, really? Like, why are you surprised? But it's always like such a really cool thing to hear, like that it's such a validating experience. So if you've played any games, tell them that you like them, because it really does mean a lot.
If it's on Steam, like the demo or whatever, leave a review.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Like wishlisting, reviewing. I know people like hammer on about wishlisting, how it's so important, but it actually is like so important, and it's like such a like easy thing that you can do to support a game too. I think it's very like, it doesn't cost you anything, right?
Together we can defeat the algorithm.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So kind of along the lines, I think something that we're hearing that's more like on the businessy kind of side, which is a little bit boring, but also kind of really cool when you dig into it, is that indie games are kind of like boosting our economy, especially in this country. So I'd love to hear, probably Dakoda, you're probably a really great person to talk to about this, because you guys like obviously are funding games in Australia, and you would need to have some sort of reason to do that, right?
Yeah. I'll try to keep it interesting so I don't bore you with the policy level stuff. That policy level thing is probably more suited for GCAP earlier in the week. Yeah. So I think the value figure that gets thrown around at the moment is about $340 million added to the Australian economy through game making in Australia, which is pretty significant. At Screen Australia, we're an arts agency, so jobs and economy is not our main focus, but it's always nice when you can support people to make things sustainably. If we think that someone's a really crack hot game maker and we think they've got good ideas and want to support them, it's really great if they can then also make a second game after that as well. So sustainability is a big priority in the way that we focus about it. But ultimately, like, we know that this is already happening. So our goal is to help it scale safely and sustainably so that we're not seeing big boom and bust cycles like sort of the industry at large tends to experience. Whether we're having great success or mild success is kind of up to you to judge, but I'm really proud of the work that we've been able to do so far, and it has meant a lot of great independent games coming out of Australia that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
I think it's really interesting because it's so easy to like think, oh, it's just a game. But like in a lot of ways, like buying an indie game is like buying something from a small business. It's kind of the same premise. Like you're actually supporting like Australian companies and Australian businesses, which I think is a really cool way to look at it, because sometimes it's so easy to be like, oh, this doesn't make a difference, or this isn't really, doing anything, but it can be so crucial to like support these. Like that's obviously the best way you can support a developer is by like buying the game.
And I find like I'm obviously biased being Australian, but I swear every time I find a new indie game that I just am hooked on and I'm like, I need to play that game, like 9 times out of 10 it's coming from Australia, and like I think that's so awesome. That's all I had to say about that.
I literally got a message from my mates earlier today in the group chat saying, oh, let's play this game next weekend, and it's Screen Sheet by Samurai Punk. I'm like, fantastic Australian games. It's unfortunate that Samurai Punk is no longer with us, but the people who made that still float around the industry in other roles and doing other things. So whether you're supporting that company now or in the future, there's more great stuff to come out of Australians.
Yeah.
But you can see it at all the conventions around the place that I'm noticing more and more of them are having an indie section. And the indie section is always stacked. Always stacked. I went to AvCon earlier on in the year.
Which is in Adelaide, for those who aren't familiar.
Yes, and it was just fantastic to see the regulars that I've seen at PAX and some new ones as well. And it's really cool to see the amount of people that are getting around it. So it's definitely a popular thing. It's definitely starting to become more of a bigger thing. I know there's a lot of people outside of game conventions and stuff that are talking about indies. There's a lot more streamers and content creators looking at indies as well. And it feels like it's quite a fast moving machine at this point in time, where we're getting more and more traction, more and more interest. It's definitely something to keep an eye on, because it is getting much bigger. It was the same as the New Zealand thing that we went to the other day. They were speaking about how it's one of New Zealand's fastest growing exports at the moment, which is insane. They were talking big numbers too, like absolutely massive numbers. And they were talking about how proud they were about it and how they want to push it to move it further and really, launch it. And I think that's what's happening in Australia as well. Not just Australia and New Zealand, but around the world, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm from the US. Coming here this week has been really fascinating because particularly in the US, there is not the government support for games that there is here. And seeing the difference in the quality of pitches. So I came here to look at games and sort of scout them out. And I listened to a lot of game pitches and saw a lot of early prototypes and builds. And they're so much further along. They're so much more polished because there is this level of support in the industry. And so it's been really incredible to see. And while the U.S. isn't as fortunate in the funding from the government, I would say like places like Canada, lots of places in Europe are also doing the same thing. But honestly, there's something very special about what's happening here in Australia, New Zealand, in this region, in terms of just the creativity and I think the very unique voice and sense of humor and just style that folks are bringing to the games here. Yeah.
That is definitely a big one. The style and sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's things like Aussie Bogan Hero and
My Arms Are Long
Yeah. There's definitely
some weird games.
A really
in a good
specific
way,
style.
In a good way.
Very good way. Yeah.
But I think also a lot of Aussies will look at those games and they instantly have a feeling of familiar. You know the word that I'm trying to say, right? And they connect with it. We were having a conversation about that coming up. The same with Dinkum. It's like you can see little bits of your own story in that and really relate to it, so you grasp onto it and play it as much as you can.
I think it's really cool because obviously like two of arguably the biggest indie games this year have been Australian made in Schedule 1 and Silksong, which is wild to think that like Silksong was a 3-person team with some contractors, I believe, and Schedule 1 was like solo dev.
Yeah.
So like it's crazy to think that two of the biggest games in the world this year were made by such tiny small teams in a little country with a lot of land and crazy animals.
I met the creator of Schedule 1 at an event in Sydney, and he was just like, he's just sidled into our like circle, and everyone was like, oh, hey man, like I haven't seen you around. Didn't you make games? He's like, yeah, I made a game, Schedule 1. And I was like, what? And then everyone was just like, wait, Schedule 1, that's like made like millions of dollars, right? And he's like, oh yeah, it's done pretty well for itself. It's like the most unassuming guy ever. It's really weird. But yeah, that's when I learned that game was actually Australian. I didn't know, and I was like, once again, Australia, like coming out with the big ones. But yeah,
it's very cool. Yes, the next kind of thing I thought would be fun to chat about is the fact that indie games are booming. So it's kind of making it harder and harder for games to stand out. We're kind of having the opposite kind of problem. So I guess, what are some of your experiences with that? I mean, I guess there's a few different people here to talk about different angles on that, but in like the competition side of games now, it's more and more competitive than ever. We're seeing like 50 games a day or something ridiculous released on Steam. So it's kind of becoming challenging in that we have too much good things now. So I guess what are we seeing? I guess Rohan, maybe you could speak to this because, or maybe not.
Okay.
Are you too early for the marketing
I'm ready.
conversation?
I've been warming up. I'm feeling good now.
Like, how are you combating that in your kind of strategies?
In like the competition of like other games
Yeah.
and the overwhelming essence of that, I'm putting my life on the Reliant, and there's like 50 more games that are similar to mine, and I have to make myself stand out.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because as a solo dev, especially initially when I started, I was always just trying to keep it simple, and I'm going to forget the question by the time we get to the end of this, but anyway. So the way I stand out is, hilariously, I have been trying to keep it simple, and I almost felt lazy keep making a simple game, because when I started, I was like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to keep it super basic, make the message really simple. You jog home alone and you break stuff. That's the essence of it. I've lost it. What was the?
So I guess like it's so competitive. Is that?
Yeah. So the keeping it simple has actually been a strength of mine and the game itself, and that's actually how I've been standing out, is by simplifying. And I think a lot of developers feel like they need to add stuff to games to I need to make a really exciting mechanic, or I need to make a really groundbreaking story, or I need to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, I don't have the energy for that. I'm just going to make a little game that means a lot to me and that I think there's a small audience for. And now it's literally been the strength of the game that it's so simple. Everyone can get it. You sit down for 5 seconds and you know exactly what the game is. And that's actually how I'm standing out. And that's how I'm dealing with the competition, is I'm literally just building the game I want to build and that I want to play, and keeping it simple and making it for the people who I know are out there that really want to have a game like this, because it's essentially like Untitled Goose Game, and that was one of my favourite games during COVID. So I'm trying to get that out there, and I know that people are out there, and I think it's really working for me because I'm showcasing at PAX apparently, and I'm on a panel, so yeah.
I guess, do we think that niching has become more important now?
I can speak to that as someone who has spent a lot of my career honing in on the niche of more thoughtful, gentle, cozy, wholesome games. I think it's really important, going also to the competition question, if there are so many options, it's important to just know, as a player, for me, I'm like, okay, who are the people covering the games that I really enjoy, and how are they focusing on these games? And so curation becomes really important. And so for us, knowing our audience and knowing like what exactly we love is really important, and that's why for us, cozy, wholesome games have been a thing, and that's worked really well. Yeah,
It's kind of worked well, right?
yes, it's kind of worked well. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of wholesome games because I think before wholesome games existed, the brand, I think wholesome games and cute, small, really heartfelt games really had a hard time finding their voice and finding their audience. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Jenny and the others have been able to bring a body into being that actually projects those titles out into the world has been like life-changing for so many developers. And it's also getting those games into the hands of the people who are like striving to find those exact games, because we know they're out there, they're just so hard to find. So
Yeah. It's like the same with any genre. Like there's this sort of PSX group that I follow because I'm like, I like this specific type of horror game, and I know they curate this kind of horror game, and so it's like finding the people who are doing the things that you love, and that's going to help you get through like
The
to
noise.
finding the noise of finding what you like to play, but if you're a developer, finding who is looking for the kind of game you're making.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with the personality and finding your people. I think the games that try too hard to cater to everyone are usually the ones that find it hard to get to anyone. And the people who really cater towards what they love usually find their community outside of that. So one thing that I've noticed walking around in the PAX Hall this year is that there's specific games that catch my eye. And it's usually just from the branding. And as soon as I walk up and the person talks to me, it's almost like we're going to be friends. Because I just match with them, and that's how I've been finding my games this year. It's like they've got the branding spot on, and the game is catered towards a specific thing, and I can see that nice and easily. It brings in that simplicity as well. It's like you know what the game's about, you can relate to it, and people will gather.
Yeah, there's just not enough time for you to look at everything, right?
Yeah,
so you kind of have to offload some of your decision making to people that you trust, and whether that's a publisher that you know publishes things of a certain type that you keep looking at, or if that's friends or content creators, or even just like a recommended games, like people who play this also like games like this. It really does help narrowing that field. And, you know, obviously it also pays to go outside your comfort zone and see what else is out there. But yeah, we are just inundated with too much stuff. I think it's really fair to find an easy path to find the cool stuff we want to play.
Yeah.
100%. That was like date everything for me. It was like, I want to play this because the voice actors are sick. It's like, I'm not really into dating sims. Man, I spent a lot of time on that game. Wow. That was fantastic.
Yeah. That was my next question, was literally, how do you break through and find games to play? I think it's so interesting because we're seeing more games than ever, but then we're also seeing like a lot of like big layoffs and things like that in different companies. And then we're seeing things like games media struggle to stay afloat. But then we're also seeing like content creators, you know, influencer marketing become integral to games getting out there. And so it's become crucial more than ever to have curators and content creators and people talk about your game. And even just like talking to your friends about games that you like can be so valuable. I know there's a lot of people who I'm like, especially Ant, it's always you. I'm always like, I think you really like this game. And then next minute you're like, oh yeah, I bought it. It's really good. I really like this. I've spent 20 hours on it and done no work this week. But
yeah, usually the work's done for you, and then you send me a new game, and I'm like, I'm not getting any videos to you this week. I'm sorry. I've been playing The Wandering Village.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing I can do about that.
But it's a really interesting landscape, I think, we're kind of heading into, where it's like there is a lot there and it's so hard to nail down what to play. So I don't know. We've kind of already really talked about it, haven't we?
There's some things. One thing that you mentioned was like creators, but in the same vein, sometimes that can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's you end up getting too. What's the word? Do you know what I'm talking about? Tunnel vision. You get too tunnel vision on specific games. I know at one point I was watching TikTok a lot, and I'd see games, I'd hop on and play it, and then I'd only play the games that I was seeing on TikTok. And that was kind of bad, because then I was just playing the same group of games in a little bit of a cycle. And on the side of the dev, sometimes that can also be bad, because you might have a game that goes viral. I'm thinking about that. That's Not My Neighbor.
Yeah.
Is it the name of the game where you have the... Yeah. Anyway, that went crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the developer was like, I was not expecting this. Wow. And then the second game came out, and I haven't seen much traction behind it. So I'd love to know what happened with that second game.
Yeah.
Because there just wasn't the creator backing. It wasn't as viral as the first one. So... that's not the question, so I apologize. How do I find a good indie game? Yeah, you've been...
I got you, man.
Yeah. Together. Steam curation is something that we want to get into, but yeah, looking at the side panel of your Steam, there's usually ones like people you know might be playing, or games similar to, and you can find curators at the bottom of your Steam that says, you know, good cozy games, psychedelic horror games, or whatever you're into. And if you find a trusted curator, then you can grab those games whenever you want. And they're usually pretty good at keeping them up to date. So
yeah, I think something that is not appreciated enough nowadays as well is demos.
Yes.
Like there are so many games that have demos, and usually they actually have quite a good chunk of content in there, and they're free. So you can just go and try them out, like try before you buy. And I think they're so valuable because, I mean, a good demo gives you a really good picture of the game. And I think they're really underrated. I think more people should play demos because they're so good.
Bring back the demo disc. Do you remember that back
Yes.
when we were
Yeah.
younger?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
We need like a, not subscription based. I hate subscriptions. We need some sort of something where you get a list of demos each month and then you've got to play them.
Oh, yeah.
It's not your choice which ones you get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and to find those demos, you can just like look on Steam. There's a category that says demos, but most often, because I also am trying to see like what are the latest demos, not just like the vast list of demos on Steam. Events like PAX will have the banner, and you can click on them and actually see the demos for games available for specific events. And so, if you know of different events, which there are so many now. Not only like Frosty Games Fest is a great one to shout out. It's Australian, New Zealand games, but you have, what is it, like the Game Awards, Summer Game Fest, Wholesome Games, we have an event, Latin American games. There's ones for almost any topic, region, genre that you can think of, and you can go onto Steam and find demos and games specifically for those kinds of ideas or topics. Also, if you haven't heard of itch.io, and you really like, let's go itch. If you are someone who wants to do the like legwork of browsing, itch.io is a great place to also just look up games yourself. They do have some curation aspects, where they'll have like maybe some of the more popular games that are being played or being sold on the platform, but many of the games are by hobbyist devs as well as indie devs that have maybe more studio platform funding opportunities, and you can just play a wide range of games. I remember like Celeste had a version of Celeste that was on there before it was out, so you can often catch games before they're more commercially available and see them earlier. It's very cool. So that's another one on
That's
top
like
of
the
creators.
The really indie games.
Yeah,
are
if you're
on
like
Itch.
deep in the rabbit hole of indie, Itch is a great place.
You can also follow those devs along their journey as well.
Yes.
Like what you're saying with Celeste. If you find a game that you resonate with, you can find the name of that developer and then go, all right, well, I'm going to keep them on my list to watch and then play further along. And it saves you a little bit more time.
That's good. All right. Does anyone else have anything they think we'd add, or are we happy to go to questions?
I was going to just add a small thing that, like, you mentioned earlier that the price of a thing helps you find games that, you might set it to under a certain price. And I agree with that. But I'd also add that time is even more valuable than money at the moment. So, like, I really love video games that are, like, under 3 hours. Like, if a game is under 3 hours, I will, like, pretty much play it.
Yeah.
And then if it's also under $15 or, cheap or even free or a demo or whatever, that's a huge one for me in terms of finding games.
There is a really great website called How Long to Beat, and you can search in there and it will tell you how long the game plays for. I use that a lot.
Yeah,
It's
so
really
do I.
good. Yeah.
Especially if I need to know if I can play the game in a week for you. Do I need to do content on this? How long to beat? 20 hours? Probably not.
Awesome.
I just want to add, like, the sort of counterpoint to this is to not create your own gatekeepers. Like, please look outside of the places that you trust on occasion as well.
Yeah.
For me, it's really easy. Twice a year, Great Australian Games end up in my inbox because I'm assessing them for funding. But I also have to look outside of that to find other things that there are great Australian game makers that don't apply for funding. So even if I'm just looking at the niche of Australian games, I have to put in work. I can't trust that everything filters through my narrow lens. So if there's stuff that you love, make sure you keep looking for it, even if there are places that you do trust that are, bangers every time, can't miss. There's going to be stuff that slips through the cracks, and we should play more great games, I don't think that's a controversial point.
Not at all. All right. Do we have any questions? We have some microphones set up on either side of the room. You have to get out of your chair. I'm sorry.
So I had a question. In an industry where so many people are kind of fighting for engagement, a lot of different tactics are used. And at what point do we have to kind of step back and stop like engineering dopamine chains and kind of manufacturing addiction when we are trying to compete with people with billions in budgets? So where do you draw the line, whether it's indie or AAA, of like ethical game creation versus like predatory addiction manufacture?
That's an amazing question.
Yeah,
I've got an opinion on this.
Okay, go
I
for
think
it.
a big thing that we are seeing these days is that people want that real connection. And when you make that real connection, you're going to stand out a lot more to the people who play it. And if it might take a little bit longer for them to get the word out to a lot of people, but once it does, they're going to have more of a dopamine hit at the end that leaves them really enjoying the experience they had, rather than that small hit every, let's say, 2 hours that you get with some AAA games. I think what we've been talking about with the passion and your story, when you put that in and someone really connects to it, they're going to hold on to it. I know that's what has brought me heavily to indie, is the fact that when I finish a game, I am just so blown away by it. It was an experience. It wasn't me playing, I don't want to shout out a game, but it wasn't me playing Overwatch and at the end of the game going, another one. It was like, oh man, I need to play that again next year. And that's my opinion. That's how you break away from that cycle of trying to clickbait someone, basically.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think people are exhausted by this, like, especially with things like microtransactions and loot crates and all of the, ABC of dopamine hits, basically. And I think people are actually exhausted. And I think people are looking for those games that have more meaning and have, are more fun. Like, they don't even have to be like deep, make you sob at the end of it games, but there are just some really great games that are that are meaningful in that they give you a really rewarding gameplay loop without it being like addictive or like, costing you an arm and a leg to, buy into it or anything like that.
Yeah. Once again, with the AAAs, a lot of the reviews we've been hearing from AAAs, that's kind of what we're hearing. It's like, this doesn't have any soul. We're just doing the same thing that we've been doing for 20 years now.
Yeah, I had one lady at my booth today. She was so sweet. She stuck around for so long, and she was actually there yesterday, but the fire alarm went off. And she came back today with her son to play the game. But while her son was playing, she was talking to me and saying how watching her son play my game was a refreshing change, and her son really loved it. And what she loved about it was that there wasn't those fancy bells and whistles about. She specifically mentioned like the proximity chat of the games, like especially in Roblox and stuff. She was talking about like there's like a dating thing or something in Roblox where like kids meet each other and stuff, and they chat all the time, and it's
Roblox is a whole thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I haven't even looked into it because I'm terrified. So she was just saying that her son and all his friends, they're always talking at school, and then they get home and they're always talking online, and it's just like really overwhelming and stimulating for him. So she was really excited to see the smaller games that aren't trying to do what everyone is doing and just doing something much more simple and straight to the point, and that he can be in his own little world for a little bit and enjoy that experience and reset. It's like a palate cleanser for his like life, and that's an amazing thing that she told me today. It was like really, really nice.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Who was next? Yes.
Hello. Yeah, mate. So my next question, I guess, would be for the game devs. So I assume most of you will have your day jobs, right? Apart from the game devs and stuff. So my question is, how do you find the time, the patience, the motivations to keep on working on your game dev projects and all that?
That's the golden question, right?
Yeah.
Take it away, Rohan.
Just give me some time to think about it.
It is really tricky. So as someone who is not currently active as a game maker, but who has been in the past, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. You spend a lot of time being tired, being exhausted, being frustrated, because this thing would be really easy if you could just work on it when the sun's out instead of late at night. But it's not a race. I know that we exist in this sort of economy where you got to be first, you got to be fast, you got to get it out there. Otherwise, the time moves on. But people will play your game if you make it the way that you want it to be made. They will come back to it. You don't need to make your game and release it in 2005. You can release it whenever it's done. And I think it's really important to remember that you can just do it. You don't have to do it fast.
I agree with all that. And I know, like a dev thing, like being the solid developer for a game, the thing I tell myself that pushes me through all the hurdles, because there's always hurdles while you're making a game, and there's always the times that you want to give up or you just don't have the energy or whatever. If releasing a game is important to you, it's when those moments come, that's the exact time to keep pushing forward, because everyone's going to experience that. And if you're able to push through those moments, then you suddenly become part of the minority and you will start inspiring others because you've been able to pass that barrier. And that's what I tell myself when I get a barrier in front of me, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm like, it looks like this is where I'm going to fall over. I tell myself, okay, probably like 95% of people will give up here, but more importantly, 5% of people will push through. And if you can be part of that 5%, you're going to change your life and other people's lives by being the example and showing people that you can do it.
And I would add to that, so I was on a team with 3 other core members and then many contractors. And it was, the biggest help was that we weren't alone in doing it. And even as a solo dev, I would say if you are going at this in your evening hours and your weekend hours, try to make sure you find other people to relate to with the experience, find community and other developers. I don't think we would have been able to make that game without the help and venting sessions and consolation from all of our friends and fellow developers. So make sure that if you're doing this, you're not going at it alone.
Yeah. And I do want to say, because it's important, that it's not about like pushing yourself past your breaking point. Like, you're not trying to prove to yourself, to the world, or to yourself. Like, if you need the time, or if you're, it's mental health first. So, but if it's important for you to finish something, focus on that. Like what I said. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Next question.
Hi. Great panel so far. Thanks. What are your thoughts about using AI as part of indie game dev?
I was really hoping we would avoid this question.
Oh, really? I mean, to make it more personal, like if I didn't, after spending 8 hours programming all day, having an AI that I can rely on to do some of that for me, which I do for a living, is an integral part of my being able to get stuff done and not having funding and this sort of thing. But does it make it less indie? Is it less authentic? Are we obligated more as indie game developers to be clear about how much we're relying on a tool like that? Or is it just like any other tool like Adobe, Photoshop or something?
I think it depends on the type of AI. And I think this is something we're seeing a lot for people who kind of have a greater understanding of AI, is that there's generative AI and then there's other AI. And I think defining what type of AI you're using is really, really beneficial, because generative AI is the one that everyone likes to harp on about as not being good. And we know that there's ethical issues with that. But I think like something interesting that they discussed that we heard people talk about a couple of days ago in another talk was the idea of building your own AI models to then, like, so building your AI model from scratch and then using that to help you develop your game. So like, that is kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, that's innovative, because you're not relying on these corporations or these like existing AI things, you're building your own thing, which is probably dev hell, I don't know. So I think it's an interesting conversation. I think any interaction I've seen about the AI conversation is that transparency is super important. People want to know what they're investing in, and I think it's really important to just be transparent with how you're using it and what you're using it with, and then let the audience decide whether or not they want to support that.
100%. Because the main thing they brought up was that AI is everywhere. If you have enemies in your game, they're using a form of AI to control the enemy. If you've got certain mechanics, it's all over. If you're the generative? Oh man! Wow.
Just go Gen AI.
Yeah.
You can say AGI as well. I do.
I think that's the big part that a lot of people have the issue with. It's exactly if you build a program that's catered towards your what you're making, and it's your heart and soul.
Mm.
And it helps you specifically with something, whether it be scheduling or I'm not a dev, so I have no idea what it is. But if you've built it from the ground up to help you do what it is you need to do, that was seen as
it's kind of using AI as it was intended
as a
to be
tool.
used, I think, as
totally.
a tool.
It's the same way you're using Notion. And
Yeah,
It's
the
like-
authenticity thing.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because I think people, I don't mean to take up too much time, when someone uses Unreal or Unity, they don't get the argument, oh, why didn't you build the game editor yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if someone uses like Figma for designs, it's like, well, why didn't you build the design illustration tool yourself? So it's interesting though, because this, I wouldn't ever want to mislead anyone that's interested in buying my game down the line.
Yeah.
But thank you, your answers are really helpful.
Yeah,
So-
it really comes down to that, like, if there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, how much ethical consumption can we still do? And I think that, I think generative AI is a really impressive tool, and I would be much more comfortable using it on a personal level if I knew that it wasn't built on stolen data.
Totally.
If it's not stolen data, go wild. I have zero qualms about it. As an agency, we ask for transparency. Like, we don't have a strict yes or no policy, but be transparent about where that's coming from, because our concern is, can you legally own that? If you get sued, do you own the copyright on something that's been fed through or been altered using Gen AI? So, the ethical question is there, the sort of moral question is there, but ultimately, I think the thing that comes down to is, like, will people resonate with what you're making if you do something, if you use this tool? Like, people might hate you if you make a game in Unreal. I don't know why they would, but they might do that. They might have a bias against it. It's the same with this tool as well.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
I think we've got time for one more really quick question.
no.
I'm sorry.
I don't think we do.
So
Mine's very quick.
for someone new to the industry, apart from game jams, how do we find people to collaborate with? Because there is a plethora of different things, right? Then there is amazing music producers and artists, etc. So apart from game jams, where do we find this amazing people to work with?
PAX.
Yeah, there are Discord servers, there are groups on like Facebook and stuff, and yeah, wander the show floor and have a chat to people and just say, like, where are you talking to your fellow game makers, and get involved in those communities and forge genuine connections with them. I've had a couple of conversations this weekend with people showcasing who are like, I've just been getting business cards and it's a really transactional experience. People want to work with someone that they know and trust, and that first step is knowing and trusting you. So make friends. That's what I've done. It's worked out so well. I know you're a solo game maker, but you're making friends throughout New South Wales.
Yeah.
And
so-
that's, yeah.
Yeah, so like in Sydney we have a whole bunch of events, and one of them is like called Beer and Pixels that happens once a month in a pub, and everyone just comes along and shows their own games. And it's full of like majority of students and stuff, and that was the first breakthrough for me. I was like, I'm going to go to an event and like I'm not going to know anyone. I was terrified, and I went to that, and then I've just been seeking out every possible event that I can find in Sydney, because literally it's the first step to showing your game at a showcase, because you first have to show your fellow people on the pub floor before you can like take it to South by Southwest or something. It's a little stepping stone. So yeah, like if you can find anything that's on the creative space, like look up the meetup.com type vibes, and just go to something, and then yeah, just start it. Like don't look for the perfect thing, just go to something and you'll find the next thing after that. Like yeah, it's all about just getting the ball rolling, and yeah, it'll happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Is it really quick?
Oh, it's crazy quick.
All right,
Okay.
I have a slide. I'm a dev. Thank you so much. Great talks. As a dev, it's very easy to find other devs, and it's great. You make friends, Rohan. Like, it's awesome. A lot of the time, I'm not sure how to differentiate devs to players, and I'm super curious who, the title of this, who comes to this. Is it mostly devs, creators, or is there a lot of players here as well? Asking the questions, but
We can do that,
I'm very
Rob. Do you
curious
wanna-
about that.
Can we put our
Yeah.
hands up if
Yeah.
we are players of indie games?
Whoa.
Nice.
Can we put our hands up if we are devs of indie games?
Okay, well
And
there
what
you go.
was the last one?
No, just that
that
was
was
the,
just
the
those
two,
two, yeah.
basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a lot of players in the room. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for the great questions and everything. And, yeah, support indie games, basically.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go see Doggy Don't Care on the show floor.
Yes.